Marshall in the middle.
And we're live. What's going on, Top? How you doing? Welcome back to the NBC room.
Oh my gosh.
Gas a little bit.
Hey, I gotta say, this show is sponsored by Penny A. Cox Esquire for all your attorney needs. If you need a bankruptcy, if you need anything to do with attorneys, call Penny A. Cox Esquire right there. What's going on, man? I love you, buddy. You called me today. You was kind of, I don't know, you was ready to jump off the bridge, man. What's going on?
Hey man, it's definitely not that type of energy, man. I'm here for the long haul, man. I'm here. I'm gonna be here. I'm living. Hey, life is good. I mean, I what I called you about earlier, man, is really concerning with so many different things, and I do plan on addressing the public on loose and reckless with this stuff. It's like going to be long form, professor lecture type ordeals. You know what I'm saying? Like, but it's not going to civility, and I gotta have a peek out, have the etiquette. But no, these loose and reckless was started as a philosophical channel, based on philosophies of governance, what we're moving to, what kind of economic systems humans are using to stay on the same page with each other. So yeah, there's a lot that's concerning me right now with how all of this stuff is cooperating with the new wave of technology and industries that are opening up. The idea, like just today, I opened my email and I had 60 unread applications to my company. The vast majority of these people leaving resumes, they got bachelor's, master's degree. I own a trucking company, dude. You know what I'm saying? I don't need this level of people are overqualified. And I look at what they did, and half of them, last time they had a driving job was well over 10, 15 years ago. And so my mind gets to turning. There's a lot going on, and I'm realizing that we as a people have a lot of rough stuff to get over. And I think it starts with philosophy. Philosophy is the building blocks of culture, the building blocks of governance, even the building blocks of a lot of religions. If you think about it, religion is the original philosophy. There wasn't outside thoughts outside of whatever religion you were born in. So long story short, there's a lot of concerning things going on, and I got to wrap my head around some things before I keep speaking on them. I don't think anybody wants to be out sounding like they got it figured out when they don't. You know what I mean? I don't think that's a good look on anybody. So there's things that's happening and moving forward. I encourage, if you're curious, stay tuned with Loose and Reckless, stay tuned with Marshall in the Middle. We are going to be doing this still into perpetuum, but today's topic is on law enforcement, man. You sent me this video, man. I got it queued up, man. I think the video you and what was Nate, man, Sergeant First Class Nate, or Sergeant Master Sergeant Nate. That was a phenomenal video, by the way. Shout out to him. I love his mind. I love where he was coming from. But what y'all didn't do was give everybody context of what you were talking about. I'm assuming this is the same video. So, Top, before we talk about it, let's play it so people can understand what y'all were talking about in that video, and then I can give some points on what I see on this part.
All right, sounds good. Play it, man.
Yes, sir. All right.
I'm not hearing it for some reason.
You don't hear it?
Nope.
Okay. Let me retry this real quick. I'm about to remove it. Put it back on there. All right. Screen.
So this guy, Chad, he's with the 307 Project. He's a Navy SEAL, and he's a sharp guy. I like him.
Yeah, he's very cool. Very cool.
I want to talk about something I recently experienced that was very alarming to me. And I think if I'm experiencing this, I think a lot of you guys who will watch this video are also experiencing it at even a much more intense level than I am. And that is my increasing distrust for law enforcement. All right. And this is local, state, and federal across the board. It's alarming to me because I grew up in a law enforcement family. My father was a law enforcement officer for most of my childhood. My little brother served in law enforcement. A lot of my best friends are former law enforcement officers, and I have always been raised up to hold law enforcement officers in a high regard and to view them as men and women who have chosen to put themselves in danger in order to protect and serve their fellow man, all right, within their local community. So the other day I got pulled over for not having a sticker on my tag, and the law enforcement officers that were there, they came up on both sides of my vehicle, and I felt myself getting very uncomfortable in the situation because, yeah, I don't trust them, and that's getting worse in me. And that's a real problem. I don't like that. So I've thought a lot about it, and I'm trying to consider solutions to this for myself and for all of you guys who might be thinking the same thing that I am. And here's what I believe. I don't believe that deepening distrust between me and law enforcement is my fault. I also don't believe that deepening distrust between me and law enforcement is the law enforcement officer's fault. In most cases. In some cases, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe they're the ones, maybe they are doing something wrong. But in most cases, these guys are veterans like me. They fought to defend the Constitution of the United States. They're good, solid people with sound minds, and they care a lot about what they're doing. So in most cases, I don't think it's their fault. I'm going to tell you, for me personally, what I track this down to. What's happening is I have lost complete trust in our government. I don't even have a thread of hope for our government as it is today. It has, I don't even think arguably anymore. I think it has evidently become tyrannical. And I think that it is run by a majority of really nasty, evil people. All right. And what's happening for me is I lose trust in the government of the United States to be a organization or an entity that stands up for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness of all the citizens of this great country, to abide by the Constitution. As I lose trust in that government, that is bleeding over into how I view law enforcement. Because law enforcement now, in many circumstances, they are being put in a position by government, the government who pays their paycheck, local, state, or federal. They're put into positions to where they are having to serve as bill collectors for the government that we no longer trust. And they're being asked to do that. in a lot of situations that, you know, we could sit here and speculate on those all day long, but I'm sure you guys can think of a few instances. How do we solve this, or how do we move in a better direction? You know, it's a lot to ask law enforcement officers to say, hey man, why don't you have a little discretion on these rules and laws that you are actually out here enforcing? Why don't you think about what it means for you to be writing me a ticket for not having a sticker on my tag? Why don't you think about how that is you not protecting and serving, but being a bill collector for the government? That's a lot to ask, man. But here's what I think the solution or the ask ought to be. It ought to be asking law enforcement officers to have the courage to step up and begin to have public conversations with citizens like myself about their perspective, about the difficulties that they experience in doing the job that they are called to do, and having honest conversations about maybe some of the things that they are being asked to do are flat out un-American. And how do you do that? Like, what do you do with that when you're in their position? What do you do with that? I've reached out to a couple of officers in my local area who are still actively serving, and they are very hesitant to come on and have a conversation with me publicly about these issues. And I understand why. Because everything they say is going to be picked apart by their leadership, and they may potentially lose their job. Well, let me tell you right now, if we don't start doing something to close the gap on this distrust between law enforcement and citizens, we're going to wind up in a lot worse situation than just somebody losing their job. I think it's very important, man. And I do not understand how hard it is to be a law enforcement officer. I want to admit that. I don't understand how difficult it is making a traffic stop, and you don't know if the person in the car is going to do something crazy. I don't get that, man, putting yourself in that position over and over again throughout the day. What I do want to do is I want to have a conversation about that so that we can move toward unity and trust with these men and women who are out here protecting and serving for the right reason. Because I don't like the way that I'm beginning to feel toward them. And if I'm feeling it as someone with a very trained mind who is used to very high stress situations as a former U.S. Navy SEAL, I have to imagine hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people are feeling the same thing, but on a much more intense level. That's been on my mind here lately. I wanted to share it with you guys. Hopefully it makes you think. Hopefully it challenges some of you guys and girls who are doing the job out there to understand the way the citizen's mind is viewing you because of the distrust in government. And hopefully it makes you think about how important it might be right now to begin having conversations with each other about the challenges that we face.
All right, I'm gonna end it there, Top. I think that was good context of what we are talking about today. So I understand and totally agree with his sentiment. I think I have a unique perspective, Top, for many reasons, right? I grew up in a very low income area, you know, the military was my way out of the projects in a sense, right? Like, the atmosphere I come from is akin to this right here. I'm about to share this with you. Pull this over here.
Check,
Maximize
2, 3,
that out. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. I want to make sure you
Okay.
got me.
Look at this here. All right. At 13 years old, 14 years old, this was my daily reality. This is what I grew up in around.
Oh, really?
Military saved me. You know what I'm saying? All of this stuff, this is my purview as a 16-year-old coming from school. Humorous up into the point where when I dropped out of school, I was involved in this activity, participating in telling people the stuff that does this to them, until the point where I got in trouble as a minor. My mother told the judge he's going to get his life together. We're signing him over to the Army. You know, I told you earlier about Sergeant Major Parker, right? Being right about me, right? When he told me, he was like, Sergeant Burnett's going to prison, man. The reason why he foresaw that is because there's a divide. There's a ideological and cultural divide in Black Americans, right? You have African Americans and then you have Black Americans. And the divide is really on ideology, right? It's very based off of ideology. Black Americans and African Americans are subculture of Anglo-Saxon American, all right? We got our culture from European identity. That is our culture. And I whether for bad or good, it just is, right? There's some deterioration of the purity of the culture that came from Europe and bestowed on us. I would say African Americans that deem themselves African Americans might not always been that way, but the way I look at it today, African Americans don't like this country. They don't care for the Constitution unless they could use it as a tool to beat guilt out of white people. Oh, well, the Constitution say, I have a First Amendment right to do this. And that's when it matters to them. Not the idea that those in the town hall should all have a say. That's not why they care about the First Amendment. And there's a deep-seated anger that even I inherited in that atmosphere as a youth against the country and against white people in general. Little did I know that there was a bigger thing at play that the whole community is suffering from, because if you go back to the 40s and the 50s in America, Black Americans were upstanding people, solid homes, solid families, intact religion, spirituality. All right. People had a lot of morals and values. The liberal agenda brought in Marxism into all of our nation. And this is a parasite and a cancer that creates those realities, what I just showed you, whether we like it or not. How does this all relate to the police? Those type of areas, can you share the screen again?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those type of areas, Top, come from shit like this. Ma'am Donnie, mind you, he's only been mayor of New York for literally a week, already proposing to cut the New York Police Department budget. And if you've been in New York anytime recently, you will know that there's a lot of bull crap like what I just showed you going on in New York.
Right.
The last thing they need to do is cut the budget for police. All right. Also, here, on my channel, I did a video a year ago. Should we, the people, forgive the media?
Like he's scared.
The media is a construct that has its marching order.
In consumer news, economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step this year.
Economic factors may take some spring out of the Easter Bunny step
I want
this
to
year.
use it to highlight the fact that
Economic factors may take some spring out
these
of the Easter Bunny
people
step this year.
are telling you what to think before you even got the news. No matter what it is,
Economic factors may take
no matter
some
how
spring
it
out
is,
of the Easter Bunny
the
step this
media
year. Economic
is
factors
making us
may
hate
take
these
some
police
spring out of the Easter
officers.
Bunny step this year.
The media is teaching us that the police officers are the enemy en masse. Now, there's individual situations. Back to my story and why I brought the atmosphere and the place I grew up in. I went to the military, and I spent 7 years in the military. I noticed things, especially being on deployments, that were akin to what we talked about earlier. There was some mischievous things with the administration that was in power when we were in, you know. But for me, it registered as underworld activities, and it didn't instill any more confidence in me and our system, because I was already ingrained to not like the country, not like, police, authority, all types of things. Well, it took me getting out of the military and going back to that atmosphere, getting caught up with that atmosphere, and ended up sitting in prison. And for 3.5 years, I did nothing but figure out what happened. Why is everything the way it is for me at that time? How did I put myself here? What led to this? And that took me down a path of trying to figure out how to rectify myself and rectify what's going on, which in turn took me down a path of understanding the rules to the game that needs to be played. Every game has a rule. Every game has rules. You can't play chess and decide to sit down and don't know how a pawn moves. You got to understand how a pawn moves to play the game. There's rules. And when I started diving into the rules while I was in prison of American society, it made me more curious of European ideology, European history, the idea of capitalism, where it came from, all of these things to make sense to me of where I'm at and what my place in the world is, and how do I rectify myself and break some of these curses that have been placed on me. I had already had one mind fuck in the military where some of my best friends were white people. Some of my best buddies, some people that still to this day, even like you, Top, I would trust with my life. I've been wearing this for 20 years. This guy was white. It's my brother, more than even some of my blood brothers. Now, you understand? So sitting in prison, I had to reflect on my culture, what I was taught, what I believed, and also my interactions with police that got me there, right? I had a lot of run-ins with the law. Never once was I shot. Never once was I beaten. Never once did I have any ulterior actions, because number one, I knew I broke the law. I knew I broke the law. All right, you got me, sir. You got me. No problems. No problems. Yes, sir. Sorry. I'm sorry. How hard is that? 95% of the time, you have to realize these people are human, man. Just like we were soldiers, we were still human. We were fallible. We had egos. And most of us were young as hell. Sometimes I think back and I was like, fuck, I was 24 in charge of fucking 100 people. What the fuck was that? Right? Like, really, Top, at the age I am now, I look back and I'm like 24 years old. Yes, may have been mature. A lot of us are. We mature fast in that line of work. But essentially, if we went to college, we'd probably still be getting drunk in frat rooms at 20, 24. You know, like, but we're making life or death decisions for your squads. You know, you have a lot of weight on your shoulders as a 24, 20. One of my platoon sergeants that deployed with was literally 26 years old, man. 26 years old, going to sleep on his conscience that his decisions killed somebody. These are things we got to live with forever after that, you know? And in my mind, when I analyze the things that happen over the course, especially being Black, especially during the hands up, don't shoot era, especially during when Obama came out and said my son would have looked just like Trayvon, and just so much division based off of race that now people have forgotten that there was an agenda behind pushing the police hate. And now it's just blanketed to everything because it's expedient for the left and their base. And sadly, the media is on the take for one side and one ideological bent for the most part. They don't report this stuff right here, the ma'am dammy, not the ma'am damn, but where is it at? Did I put it down here? I think I did. No, it's not down there. Let me pull it back up. CNN 2018. I remember it was all types of nonsense going on in 2018 about, oh, the police are just killing all the Black people. And during that time, you know how many arguments I had with people? I'm so exhausted with the conversation at this point. I had so many arguments with people at that time. Like, bro, 15 people died in the whole year by shooting deaths. And if you watch them, 99% of them are justified. 99% of them were justified. And then, you know, we get into the actual statistics of what Black people are doing to each other. In one weekend last month, 72 people got killed in Chicago. This is not talking about all the hoods and places like where I come from. You know, so it's hard for me to get, and that's another reason why I got into that era of thinking that how could I ever be mad at a white man? White man has never done anything to me. The police are doing their job. Of course, they're not perfect. Your battle is not to fight them on the side of the road, period. We have a system of judiciary that now, if you are on the road, you disagree with any of this shit, who cares? Go to court, okay? Win in court. You don't argue with the police. You don't, none of that. What makes people think it's a good idea to argue with somebody with a gun anyway? I think people make mistakes. I think people are granted the opportunity to make mistakes because we're human and they have a very important job. And I think that we as a society have been duped. We've been turned against the people that are supposed to be putting and laying down their lives in dangerous situations. You know, you got Ma'am Dammy and all these socialists that keep talking about affordability, and then once they're elected, first thing they do is advocate for raising taxes. That's another thing. But you got these people that advocate for cutting the police off and making social officers, social whatever officers. And I'm like, bro, if somebody is losing their mind in a hostage situation, I don't want a social worker, bro. I don't want a social worker. I think our police officers need a lot more respect. What say you, Top?
So I say our police officers need a lot more money. That's what I say.
That
right?
too.
But
that too.
If you want to value something, then put your money where your mouth is as a community. If we look, I'm for fire engines and I'm for fire. Thank you for the fire. Like I caught my lawn on fire last week and the fire trucks had to come out. I caught my yard on fire. Yeah. And it's a long story, but the fire truck come and they put it out and it was all free. And they said, okay, Mr. Marshall, we'll see you. You know, they drove off. Thank you very much. You kept my world from burning down. Right. And, but But I'll tell you, a fireman doesn't have the same kind of level of craptitude that a law enforcement, a sheriff's deputy or a police officer has. I'm going to tell you, a police officer, Lord have mercy, they're stepping into some shit. They don't know what they're getting into. They have no, that little radio crackles and it says, car 44, go to, you know, there's no telling what they're going to walk into at any one moment. And they got a taser and they got a gun and they got a camera and they're like, you know, worried about because I mean, let me tell you, they can simply just walk up to a door and be in uniform and be shot through the door, through the window, through the whatever.
I seen that. There was a case like that with last month or 2 months ago. Yeah, guy walked up to the door and buddy just shot him for no damn reason.
I'm not for that. I'm not. I'm Mr. Marshall, we need you to be a law enforcement professional. I'm like, Mr. No. Right. At least in the Army, you had a whole job, like in the unit that we were in, we had a Patriot unit that our job was to, I mean, we had to defend ourselves if we need be, but we had something bigger that we had to do. Right. You were about scurrying out with all them little M8 alarms and all them other little bull crap things that you had. You know, we did our stuff. We all had a mission, you know, in the police force, dude, they're on an island. Remember they used to ride around in two in a car, right? And they had a backup right there with them, you know, and it's like, okay, Charlie, you ready to go up here and knock on the door and see what's happening? Dude, it's no, do not sign me up, you know. Okay, so my buddy T Arable, he says, okay, I've watched and listened again. You say the left pushes their agenda, but the left doesn't own the media outlets you say that are getting pushed. The right loves to push race just as much, if not more. The right loves to use race as the boogeyman for their base to fear. So I don't really have I don't have anything to respond to that. I mean, okay.
I think, you know, for me personally, I don't knock your perspective. It's one of those things where, like I told you before, we could be in the same room and we could be looking at the same exact pillar and see two totally different things.
Right.
And, you know, I really can't discredit you for saying that because you are living in the perspective that you're living in. And there's nothing to, you can hear my perspective, chew the meat and spit out the bones, man. You know, what don't stick, let it go. I mean, but me personally, if I take an apple to apples comparison, and if you go and check out my channel, I've kind of laid out a lot of my case on that for hours long videos, and you know, I get where you're coming from, but if you want to find different, you can.
Right. I mean, like when I went and we played today at a Wesley Place, like an elderly home, an old folks home, and I consider myself the junior old folks. I'm getting in early, man. I'm gonna get the early wheelchair access, man. Yeah,
you gotta get your seat at the table early, huh?
We played our music there and we had such a good time, and it's really neat to I gotta send you, man. I'm working on did I tell you about my new rock band I'm working on?
A new one outside of Wiregrass?
Yeah, so okay. So let me just share with you just a little bit about the Wiregrass Harmony Brothers, okay? Wiregrass Harmony, there's like 21 of us now, and there's several little subgroups that are a part of it. But this one group I just started Sunday It's got us this lady singer I just met. Her name is Denise. Okay, and she's been a nationally touring rock star like for 15. She's recently moved to the area and hadn't been doing much recently. And so I've got my 12-year-old or 13-year-old protege. I got a 16-year-old guitar player, a 17-year-old drummer, and we're starting a rock band called Your Mama's Smoke Show. Yeah, and I've written a couple songs for it. One of the songs I actually did it today. I did a song that I've been working on today called I Smell Whiskey in the Pew. Yeah, is it me or is it you? I try to hide, but it's no use. I smell whiskey in the pew.
Oh, that's gonna be a hit.
Yeah,
like
man. Yeah. So I played that out for the first time today, and yeah, I'm doing a gospel, a Wiregrass gospel jam on Friday night. Say Nobel King, man, you're here, but dude, I love you, man. That's you remember King? Remember King?
Yeah, I remember King.
Yeah,
Sorry,
man,
King.
he's
What's up,
here,
brother?
buddy. Yeah. Yeah,
I love
man.
it.
And
Love it.
yeah, so
And that song Still Standing. Oh my God, I had some more goosebumps, man.
okay,
Goosebumps.
so
Oh my God.
right, so
Goosebumps.
Maddie Grace is singing that song, right? Yeah, crazy, absolutely amazing. And so we got lots of good things going, and yeah, I wrote a song. And I got to send it to you. I'm working on it with Denise. I've got the recordings on it called "I Ain't Your Mama's Smoke Show." Yeah, it's gonna be a hit, man. She is a blockbuster singer. I'm talking like Pat Benatar kind of. Yeah, really, really good, really good. Yeah, and so she's my age, so there's a lot of grit there, there's a lot of grit there, and it's really cool.
Right. I can't wait.
Yeah, so
share my screen again, Top.
Do what?
Share my screen again. This
Okay,
is
let's
something
do
that I
it.
forgot to mention in the whole thing. So as we were talking earlier before off camera and on the phone, when I was telling you about like my foundation of things, this is one of my foundation principles, libertarianism. I used to be an anarchist. All right. That was because of it just is what it is. I was an anarchist.
We gotta start there. Gotta start with anarchism.
No rules. But I was an anarchist and I didn't know it, right? Like, I didn't have structure, right? So it wasn't until after prison till I started really contemplate, or really during prison. I would say truly it was Obama's presidency that really was the moment that made me start focusing in on that stuff, right? When he was the president, you got to remember, I come from an African American idea where America's never ready to see a black president. America's never ready to see, and then it happened. And I remember one day coming outside and listening to Young Jeezy, My President is Black. And it resonated with me in a way where it was like, there's no fucking excuses out here. What the fuck? And it just hit me, right? But that was just the start. It didn't change me. It just hit me like, look at this shit. There's a black, we can do anything. What the? So, anywho, I started listening to, while I was in prison, I'm listening to Rush Limbaugh, Glenn Beck, Sean Hannity. I'm walking around the rec yard doing pull-ups and push-ups, cussing, because I got the headphones on. And at the time, I was still under the psychosis. These motherfuckers hate Obama because he's black. Fuck that shit. I'm mad. I'm like, they racist as fuck. This is all that. This is what I was thinking. I was in my zone, but through my reading, through my teaching because I had nothing but time. Nothing but time. I wake up, I got time, and I got nothing but time to do it. Right. So I'm in the library as much as possible. I didn't want, if I wasn't working out, I'm reading. Other than that, leave me alone. Right. That was my modus operandi in there because I couldn't really, I had been through too much. I was disappointed in myself. It's one of those peer things. I realized like I'm behaving so much beneath what I used to be. So I studied, I focused. When I started coming into my understanding of who I am and what my principles are, the core of it is libertarianism. So that's why I pulled this up, and I just want to share this because it ties into law enforcement in a way where I want people to get the context of where I stand. Libertarianism is a political philosophy that emphasizes individual liberty, personal responsibility, and minimal government intervention in both personal and economic matters. The core principles of libertarianism: individual liberty. Libertarians believe that individuals should have the freedom to make their own choices regarding their lives, bodies, and property, as long as their actions do not infringe on the rights of others. That's number one tenet. Number two, limited government. The role of government, according to libertarians, should be restricted to protecting individual rights, enforcing contracts, and ensuring national defense. They oppose excessive taxation, regulation, and government overreach. All me all day. 3, free markets. Libertarians advocate for free market capitalism, arguing that voluntary exchanges and competition lead to prosperity and innovation. They believe that economic freedom is essential for individual liberty. Me too. Number 4, non-aggression principle. This principle asserts that aggression against others is inherently wrong, and individuals should resolve disputes through voluntary means rather than coercion. That's how you don't fuck with me, I ain't fucking with you, right? Personal responsibility is number 5. Libertarians emphasize that individuals should be responsible for their own actions and the consequences that arise from them, promoting a culture of accountability. All right. So, in essence, I am a libertarian, but libertarianism is very idealistic. It's just as idealistic, in my opinion, as the left's version of socialism or communism. It's very idealistic, like things should be, things ought to be this way. And my idealistic reality ran head first into concrete reality of the world doesn't want to leave you alone. There's a reason why there's tons of people in the street marching about ICE and badgering black officers, ICE officers, calling them house niggas. White ladies calling black ICE officers house niggas. You a house nigga. First off, it's a dumb term, first off. And then second off, how's an old liberal white lady calling an ICE officer doing his job that he was ordered to do, that the majority of the population elected representatives to do, and then turn around and y'all are badgering this man trying to do it while he's trying to get a sex offender off the street. And one thing I realized fast out here in the world is you can't make criminals abide by the law. You can't make people do unto you as you want them to do unto you. People have their own free will, and they can do a lot of things of their own free will. And this lies into the problem of libertarianism, and this is my core. The problem is that in the effort to try to free people from over-governing and over-constraints, you forget that some people do want to rob your house. You forget that some people do not care that you have to go get your gun registered. You know what I'm saying? You got some people that don't care about any kind of orderly standards that you think society, everybody lives their own way. Just like I was telling Tierra, we might see the same thing from different ways. And in that situation, we can't say, fuck it, everybody do what you want to do. No, you can't. That's very idealistic because some people are going to do stuff like come and take all your harvest before you wake up tomorrow morning. And they're like, shit, my shit wasn't growing. I had a virus in my crops, my field. So you have to have some kind of guardrails to society where, yeah, we have to agree to an necessary evil. You know, the video that we watched, buddy, said police officers are becoming tax collectors or tax collectors. I get the sentiment, but I also understand that if police were strictly following that, maybe I would have had an intervention at 14, because I was a 14-year-old driving around in crackhead cars, right? With no driver's license, and they had expired tags. You know, that kind of intervention meant something at 14, you know? There's people that commit crimes and ride around with life sentences in the car every day. I've been around them. They wake up and they'll put 200 grams of cocaine and 500 grams of heroin in their car and ride around with a stolen firearm. Like that's nothing. And a lot of times, sometimes that simple registration, that sticker being missing, oh, that's what caught the shit and got the shit off the street. And I'm saying this as a sellout, that they like to call me. I am. All of that culture is derangement, is destructive, is evil, is horrible, in my opinion. It just is. It's very corrupted. And it's mostly corrupted because our souls are corrupted in that atmosphere. Our ideas, and these officers have to come into these areas. I sometimes imagine some of these guys coming into some of these areas where everybody's just looking at them and you could tell and feel the hate, but they still will get out and protect and lay their life on the line for any one of them people out there sometimes. And I understand with all this pushback why some of them don't even want to do it anymore. We beat these people up so freaking much when in all reality, when we talk about how many people are getting killed by them, we got 370 million people out here, man. So you mean to tell me because 15 people died from human interactions? They have hundreds of thousands of interactions daily. Ain't nobody waking up like, oh, I'm just going to go and just be a dickhead and shoot somebody today. I can't wait to do it. That's not how this is happening. It's just not the case. But then you can have situations like the Renee Good where she obviously, I mean, come on, Top, obviously hit the gas. Well, she tried to flee and turn and did. Why? They told you to get the fuck out the car. What do you not understand about that? You think you just do whatever the fuck you want to do? That's the reason why libertarianism doesn't work, because we can't just do it. We can't just be doing whatever we want to do. And if we were to keep doing that, we'll just be back in the wild, wild west. And most of them that advocate for this are not ready to live in that reality. And I don't think that's a good way for us to go. I don't want my kids living in that reality. I need some security. I want some security. You know, these people that advocated for it, they got gates around their house and they live in private communities with security guards at the gate all the time. But then they don't want the regular populace, like what I showed you earlier, of people being cleaned up off the street, homeless, drugs, murders. I grew up in a city where there was a murder every freaking day, every single day. People are killing each other. This is not and it's not because it's against the law. You know, it's because people are going to do what they want to do, and there needs to be repercussion. You can't have Billy the Kid running around here just killing everybody on the block and there's no repercussion from it, you know? So in essence, I've become a staunch conservative with a libertarian heart, and my conservative values tell me that adhering and understanding the Constitution and the rules that be, the rights. A lot of people don't understand how beautiful the Constitution is because it's the only document in history, the only country that created a document in history that told the people what the government can't do to you. And then there's a judicial method on rectifying wrongdoings from human error. Your job is to minimize that potentiality of human error whenever you come in contact with the police. That's my take on it, Top.
Hey, I love it. And so, look, you tell a compelling story about being a youngster and being around the drug culture
Mhm.
and begging for intervention when none came, and then your mama telling you, looking you in the eye and saying, "Go be something of yourself, go make
Mhm.
something in the army," and you did. Look,
Mhm.
you, you were a great soldier of mine. You were a great leader. You were somebody I could rely on when I needed to get things done. And
That's right.
and really, you really were an amazing leader for me. And you talk
That's all.
about being troubled and all these kinds of things. I'll tell you that when the alarm clock went off and I called fall in, you were there, and you stood for a long period of time as a sergeant, an NCO in my unit, and I'm proud of you, dude. You did wonders for me. Well, right? What if
Appreciate
I
that,
had to? What if I had to chase your ass around?
brother.
I would be pissed. I'd be mad, right? No,
Yeah, yeah.
opposite of that. You were one of the guys that and gals that I could count on. There was several of you that at different times I fought for, and you fought for me
Mhm.
and for us, and I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our heritage. And you talked about hating white people and all the heritage and things and the stuff that you grew up with. I'm going to tell you, um, I love you, man. I love your heart. I love your
Yeah.
smile. I love the way you carry yourself. You've always been someone that I knew that deep down inside I could count on. And
Right.
I
Mm.
don't, I never, I never considered even whether I was racist or not, because I knew I wasn't. I'm not somebody
Right.
that hates somebody because it's actually the opposite. If I'm honest with
Right.
you, I
Right.
love diversity. I have no issues with
I, I,
diversity at
I
all.
think I think I think a lot of it just boils down to, the atmosphere, the culture, where it come from, and then timeline. Like I don't, for instance, let me give you an example. Like I'll tell you about my great grandfather. He was born a slave, and his position in life later, he died when like my mother was like 2 years old or something like that. So he was her grandfather, and he was a bootlegger, a moonshiner during the prohibition, so he ended up, doing all right for himself in that line of work. But as we know, back then that was against the law. So I had like an outlaw like heritage to a degree. And my mother, she which in my mind now, I look back on that was an era of American history. That's very unique. Even the moonshining game, it's a uniquely American thing. You know what I mean? So even if it was on the opposite end of the law at the time, it just is what it is. I think one of those things is when you're gambling against the law, you better be ready for the consequences, because when it comes, it's too late to be saying sorry and all that other stuff. But my mother, she was born in 1965, and in our area, she was a part of the first group of kids to be integrated into white schools. And she speaks like growing up, I remember her speaking on her experiences, and she's still traumatized to the day. She remembers rocks being thrown at her, because kids, didn't want it. It was kind of wild at the time. They didn't want the integration. My position on all that is kind of radical now, where I'm like, yeah, integration was probably not the best thing to force. I think it should have happened by nature, because like even my great grandfather I talk about, he had white friends that they were cool with doing the moonshining thing. It's just one of those things. It's like people are going to flock to like-minded and the heart. You feel energy off people, and the more you deal with, just like me and you hit it off off the minute we met. I was like, man, you're the coolest fucking first sergeant I've had, you know? And the reality of it is it's the kindred spirit type thing. And I think that would have did so much good for our country to let the government stay the hell out of the integration method, not forcing it, because we would have had time to build our communities in our own ways. That's why I don't really agree with a lot of the things that Martin Luther King did by, you know, being a organizer. You know, all of it was democratic socialism. He speaks on it too. Like, I got some stuff that I covered on that. Like, he was a democratic socialist. So the ideas of coming and popping in a neighborhood and it says whites only, and you go in here intentionally to agitate these people and want their pies. Why would you even want their pies? If they don't want to give you white people pies, take your ass down the street and go get nigga pies. Okay?
Okay, listen. Okay, so the next episode we're doing, you and I are going to talk about spirituality. Okay, we're going to talk about how there's a spirit inside of us that guides us towards a greater good, for not only for ourselves but for everybody else. Sound fair enough? Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sounds good, man. I think that's a good topic.
Yeah.
We could touch on that. I mean, I went through a lot of phases. You know, my first deployment back in 2003 was my first time in my whole life, even though I was raised in a Christian family. That was my first time reading the Bible all the way through. It took me on a roller coaster ride. I've since then read the Bible 3 times, but I also dabbled in other religions as I traveled. You know, that's kind of something that you get exposed to, not even realizing it, just going to different countries. So, yeah, I see a lot in that realm that we could definitely talk about.
So when you hear my spiritual story, you'll be surprised. So definitely. Yeah, definitely. I look forward to it. Ray, look, it's been another great episode. I'm telling you, I've had a blast. We've had some interaction back and forth with the crowd that's been watching. It's been massive.
Please don't mind my loose and reckless mouth. I just, you know.
Oh, I love it.
Love me, please. No.
I love it. You're the best. Okay, well, until next time, say bye, everybody.
Right.
Marshall in the middle.